What's up, world? This is WoTLK here, back again with another one. This is another rant style video, just talking about the Wrath fresh servers. Just kind of going through some pretext and stuff like that. We're going to cover a bunch of different details. The big factors that I think are going to come into play. I'm going to preface some things about myself real quick too as well, just so you kind of get an idea of where I'm coming from in my experience with the game. Let's just get on to it. So first off, I want to start with that I leveled to 60 and 70 now. Twice for 60 and once to 70 in TBC. I hit 60 in Classic WoW in 7 days and rated MC week 2. Did a bunch of stuff with that. That was a bunch of fun. Then with Som, I hit 60 in about a week or so. I wasn't really playing as hard. It was about a week and a half with Som. I wasn't really grinding as much, even with the experience boost. I was actually just dungeon farming anyways, so it was about the same. And then with TBC, I obviously went and hit 70. I played both the betas for Classic, and I didn't get into the TBC beta, I don't think, but I got into 2 betas for Classic WoW, which were a ton of fun. First one was like level 15 or level 10. So those are just things that I've done. I've played the game, I've played it a ton, and I've also played Som, right? Season of Mastery, something that Wrath Fresh servers I'm hoping are not going to mimic, because if you are like me and you want to grind this out, you want to hit level 70, you want to start doing raids, you want to start gearing up for pre-patch and be ready for Wrath within a month. That's my plan too, is like if I'm gonna do the fresh servers, I want to be ready within a month. I want to be ready to go, ready for Wrath of the Lich King, just gearing up, getting my stuff, getting in there. But once I get my gear going and all that stuff, it should be good. I'm not 100% sure if I want to do the fresh servers or not. My issue is, and I think a couple factors here for wanting to play on fresh servers and why they are good for what they are. Now again, I want to cover multiple things here. I want to cover why are the fresh servers good, why are they bad, what Som was like, why Som is such a detrimental effect to my opinion for fresh servers, even though I'm probably going to play on them because I want to just play something for the month anyways. Regardless, right now I think the big proponent for fresh servers and why you'd want to play on them, first off, is if you're on a dead server like me. I'm on Faralina Alliance. It is not good here. There is nobody playing the game. It is pretty dead as far as the Alliance faction. It's full on Horde side, and I really hate leaving this server. You know, I'm lucky enough to where I have my name on the server that I want to transfer to. I was lucky enough to secure it early on, so I'm good for that. But I already paid $25 to do it once. You know, I started on Scaram, and Scaram was known as like one of the first dead Alliance servers along with Stalag. In fact, Scaram was actually so dead there was a YouTuber who stayed on Scaram and he would put up videos all the time about how they finally were able to clear BWL and all these different raids and stuff like that. So it was really cool to see, even though the server was dead, it was still nice to see that people were able to still play the game. On Faralina, it's just donezo. These servers now, they don't have that type of community. That was really just for Classic WoW. That wasn't with TBC as much. I don't think TBC has like an Alliance server that still has people playing. They're not really there anymore, right? They're kind of just gone, and they've all transferred, or they're just not playing the game, especially right now in the content lull. But you know, I already paid $25, so why would I want to pay another $25 to transfer my character? I might still do it. I don't know. It is just $25, but it's like, I gotta put more money in. Even on that server, it might die. And not only that, people have hundreds of thousands of gold, maybe even more than that. People have a ton of gold. The economy is completely inflated. It could be just as bad with fresh servers. Who knows? Especially with some of the higher end gear and stuff like that. Some of the pots and stuff. You know, I was spending, when I was playing TBC on Faralina, and I also raided for Olympus. I was their mage tank, and being on a starting raid team, especially being in Olympus, all that was a good time, and I enjoyed myself. Those guys are great. Highly recommend. They're good guys. But unfortunately, you know, they had to transfer, and so a lot of the stuff kind of got split up. A lot of the guys still stayed here. Some of the people don't even log on anymore, including Asman himself. He doesn't log on at all. People have been stuck on Faralina, and they haven't moved their characters. In fact, the guild still has like almost 300 players in it, so it's quite a lot of people that still haven't moved their character. And part of me is like, I don't know if I want to move it, right? I don't know if I want to go. I don't want to leave. It's sad because the server I want to go to is just not, it's not what I expected. Like I liked Faralina for what it was. I liked how it was the, you know, quote unquote streamer server, and people were enjoying themselves, and it was a good time overall. Same thing with New World. You know, Olympus was one of the best servers, and people don't know what they missed out on, to be honest. But moving on to more of the characteristic of it, I do think that a lot of people are going to have a hard time with the inflated gold. They're going to have a hard time wanting to transfer their character to a server that actually is working. People can play on it. They don't have to They can actually form a raid group. I think there's only, in fact, I'll check right now. Yeah, on Faralina currently, there's only 17 level 70s online. There's not even a full 50 stack, so we don't even have enough players to do a raid, let alone probably even have the comp for that. It's pretty insane how dead it is. Clearly, something has to be done with server merges or whatever it is. Hopefully, something like that happens before Wrath. Guessing it won't. I'm guessing they're going to want your money first, and they're not going to allow transfers. In fact, transfers might be locked because of how many people that come back. Regardless, I do think that fresh servers offer a good place for the economy to be reset. I think it offers a good place for people to find servers that actually work. You know, you might level to level 20, and then all of a sudden you find out that your server you don't like is kind of not that good. It's okay, you're only level 20. You can easily move to a different server, delete the character, move on, and no ill will. You didn't spend any money. I think the problem comes into when we talk about SOM here. Is SOM, Season of Mastery, was really fun at the start. The problem was eventually when I got into level 30 and 40 and I was leveling really fast. In fact, I beat out most of the guild that I was in by like 10 or 15 levels, and people that did get it before me were only like a day or two ahead. I didn't go very hard at the start. Eventually during like the middle point, I was like, oh, I'm level 30, you know, let's really push to 60 here and let's get this done with so we can start raiding Molten Core. And I did. I started dungeon farming really hard. I started staying up, you know, playing for like 14 hours straight just to try to push through, try to hit level 60 as fast as I could. Here's where the problem with SOM comes in. It's a great opportunity to make gold. I had 500 gold when I hit level 6. Like, I had a ton of gold. I was almost willing to like trade the gold for some TBC gold and stuff like that. I was trying to do all that stuff. I had a lot of gold. People didn't have that much gold. And I even had my mount too, and no one really had their epic mount yet. It doesn't sound like a lot, but it was for classic especially. I mean, your epic mount is 900 gold. So it's very close to getting that. It was able to buy me pretty much anything I wanted on the auction house if I wanted it at the time. Regardless that it did reset all of that and kind of get it in proponent, I realized around 30 to 40 when I was doing dungeon farms in Scarlet Monastery, it was a lot of people who were just boosties. Like they were people that were boosters. They were boosters, and that's not a big deal. There's a lot of people that are boosters. And the other problem was that was mostly what I was playing with. Now they were really good. They were actually really good. They were good at what they did. They taught me a lot of new things that I could learn about on the mage, and I was really happy with. Those guys aren't really going to be playing the game. They're kind of just boosting people for gold and probably gonna, let's be honest, RMT it. And again, I don't have a problem with any of that stuff. I don't really have an issue. I just think when it's the majority of that community, is all of these like boosters, it's not looking too good because it's a lot of botting. There's a lot of boosting going on. And that was a major problem with SOM. SOM had a lot of big issues, and it didn't last long at all. You know, when I log on to SOM now, there's only like I saw one guild head out to MC, it looked like, or they were heading out to a raid. I don't know which one, but they were heading out as a guild, and that was kind of cool to see. But it was just one, and it was the only people in Stormwind. Then it was empty. As soon as they left, there was nobody there but me. That feeling, that emptiness, doesn't feel good. And I was on Jom Gabber, which is like the most populated, or at least was set to be the most populated server. And on Discord, there was like 10,000 members. It had the most of any Discord. So this was the most populated, and I was going to try to play on the RP realm, but I heard that died fairly fast as well. And it's unfortunate. Those servers really died off, and they were just filled with emptiness. They were filled with botters. They were filled with people that didn't really play the game. In fact, they didn't even raid log. They weren't doing anything at all. They were just trying to sell RMT gold or trying to boost people. And I think that's really unfortunate that that's what happened to SOM. There's just nothing there. And that definitely could happen to Wrath Fresh servers, especially because I'm noticing even people like Asmongold and others are saying, well, why would I want to redo it all? And that's understandable, right? Like, why would you want to go through everything again? But I find that leveling experience to be so much fun in the beginning. Like, if you join in an MMO and you're like, oh, I'm going to level 1 to 6 months into like the start of it, you're not going to have fun leveling. You're not. It's rough. But those people that do play during that time, they have a blast. We have a good time. We're pushing through. We hit level 60. And again, I'm not really sure what's going to happen with Wrath Fresh servers. I assume that you could just push right to level 70 in the pre-patch and be ready to go for Wrath. And so you probably don't need to be farming out the raids. You really just need to be doing like heroic dungeons, and I think you have to have rep for that. So that might be a little rough for the heroic rep grind. I'm trying to remember everything with TVC. I haven't played in a very, very long time. At least actually played the game. I was raid logging for like a few months there at the end before everything happened and transfers happened and the guild kind of stopped raiding and everything. But it happens. It's the existential dread of TBC. That's what happens with guilds in this game, especially even Classic WoW. Classic WoW lasted for 2 months, and I think the same thing with TBC. For me, TBC lasted a little bit longer because I was raid logging, but Classic WoW for me, I did Molten Core a few times, I think like 5 or 6 or 7, and I had already had like most of the pieces out of it because I won 3 pieces in 1 raid. I always did free roll. You know, I know a lot of people like to do the loot council stuff. I never find it fun. I like to join free roll guilds, and actually, the crazy thing, people might not believe it, but one of the raid, I'm not sure about the other raid, but one of the raids for Olympus was actually a free roll raid, and it was a lot of fun. We had a great time. There was no real issues until SSC and TK, and all that stuff didn't really matter. More so was on the whole transferring, and people just didn't feel like raiding anymore, and it was just kind of it got to be to the point where people weren't having fun, clearly. And I was spending like 150 gold a raid night. And we'd have 2 raid nights a week. So I was spending like 300 gold a week. And I wasn't making gold like that. And I certainly wasn't buying it. You know, a lot of people were buying it. So that was kind of the thing back then, as people were like, it was fine to buy the gold. Not a big deal. I didn't want to do all that. So I'm not really sure what's going to happen with Wrath and the fresh servers. And if you're allowed to, if we're going to be raiding right away, if that's something that people are going to try to push for, or if people are just going to be doing dungeon farms. And that seems fine. I think, honestly, I think the dungeon gear is actually pretty good for TBC, so you should be able to go into Wrath just fine. And you're gonna you're probably gonna replace a lot of that stuff with greens, I'd assume, or whatever's in Wrath. Not really 100% on these X packs. That's how I like going into them. I like going into them not really knowing much besides maybe like farming AOE routes and stuff like that. I kind of like, I've never played these, right? I never got to play Wrath back then. I never got to play Classic. I never got to play TBC. So when I went into them, they were very joyous for me. And I think a lot of people who didn't play back then, it will be. I just don't know if enough people are gonna come back with Wrath for Classic WoW. You know, Classic WoW was incredible. The amount of people that were there, it was insane. Every server was popping. It didn't matter that I was on Scaram, one of the most dead Alliance servers. It was still very fun at the beginning. There were so many people. People were just happy to be playing the game again. And then TBC rolls around, and people didn't, it was like a little bit less. It was a little bit less of that spirit, and it died out so fast. It didn't last very long. I think it only lasted for like a week, where people were like really ecstatic, and then everybody was just on rep farm grind and doing what they had to do, and it almost seemed like it just seemed very disconnected. People didn't really have as fun, and I'm worried for Wrath. I'm worried that that same thing is going to happen for Wrath. I'm worried that people are going to come into these Wrath servers, and you know, Asmon's playing it down like it's not going to be that fun, and he might be right. People are just going to come in, they're going to hit level 80, they're going to do a few dungeons, they're not really going to put a lot of time into the game other than doing what they have to do for their dailies, and then they're going to log out after they start getting into that monotonous grind, and then push for whatever gear that they need, and then they're just going to raid log, and eventually that's a month in, and now they're raid logging even more, and they're only raid logging. Now we're 2 months in, now people can't clear certain things, and people are facing this existential dread of not being able to get geared properly. People don't want to come to raid. People miss out. A lot of stuff happens. People have lives. People touch grass. You know, I guess that's the thing. I'm not really fond of touching grass. I don't like to touch grass very often, so when I have to, it's very unfortunate. That's something that I'm not familiar with. People like to touch grass, I guess, and that's cool with them. But they'll miss raid nights, and a lot of stuff starts to happen. So my worry is this might be exponentially increased with Wrath Fresh servers. The big problem with Fresh servers, and we'll get into this now, is that all of this could be combined with everything. People can't get to level 60. People can't get to level 70. People can't even get to level 80. We're a high up level now. Now, they did increase the XP by 80% across the board for everything, including dungeons. So dungeon spam is going to be like the #1 thing again, and people are going to be doing that like crazy. I really do think that's going to play a big part. I think the problem that Som did not increase XP for dungeons. So it only increased XP for quest experience. Basically, the questing, if you were good at it, was better than dungeon farming. So a lot of people weren't really dungeon farming. They were questing by themselves, and I think it made kind of like a stint in the community where it's really fun to play in the open world for like the first 20 levels, first 20-ish levels, 25, but then you kind of get like, I'm going from quest to quest. These aren't really that fun. I really wish I was doing something else. And for me, I like to dungeon farm. It is monotonous, the same thing over and over again, just like questing, but at least you're around people all the time, you're talking mess, you're having fun, you're having a good time with the boys, you're pushing for gear, you're pushing levels, it feels good, and you're switching dungeons pretty often, enough to where you don't get bored of them. They do kind of get, especially for Scarlet Monastery, they do kind of get a little rough, even though there is 4 of them. You do kind of go through, when you're doing the dungeon farm strats, you kind of go through a couple of them at the same time. You go through 1 or 2, then you'll reset and stuff like that. So you're not pushing your lockout. Just to wrap everything up here, they're going to have a lot of issues with botting. They're going to have a lot of issues with dungeon boosties that are joining up, they're going to have a lot of issues with, because they think that they can make some RMT money boosting and botting. There's going to be a chance they don't, a lot of these boosties and botters, they can't really do that on these populated servers because they can't get a hold of they're not in that market share. And so, unfortunately, they're not able to do that. So they might have to come to the fresh servers just if they want to be a part of it. And I do think that's going to play a big role. A lot of these streamers don't seem to want to play fresh servers. I think that's a big issue. If we don't have any streamers playing fresh servers, that's going to be a major problem. I know people are like, oh, streamers are streamers. I'm telling you, it only helps the game. It is actually really fun to play on a streamer server when there's a bunch of group events and there's things happening and people are just enjoying themselves. It brings the community together for one little thing. And some people can agree on this one little thing for a little bit of time, and I think that's really fun and it's kind of special, and you don't really get that on a lot of servers, especially at the rate that streamer servers provide. So if there's not a streamer server, if there's not stuff like that going on, if there's not events happening, if there's not like a good populated RP server, it's not going to be good for Wrath Fresh servers. That is my big problem. I think I'm still going to push in Wrath Fresh servers because it comes out a month early. I get a month of time, and hopefully I don't burn out. I'll probably get all of my leveling done in the first week or so, and then push all the way to level 70, maybe like in a week and a half, and get all that stuff out of the way. Try to gear up when I can, and by week 2 or 3, I hope to be at a stable point where I don't really need to log on a crazy amount. And that's another issue. People aren't really going to be logging in like the second to last week. People might see dead realms. They might see like, oh wow, this realm doesn't really have anybody there. It's like, well, no, people are just trying not to get burnt out for the actual release. They're just trying to chill and relax until the release comes out, then they can go hard again, because it's only so long that you could push. Same thing with Lost Ark. I can only push for so long, and then I was burnt. But anyways, guys, that was my rant. I know it was pretty long, but I did have a lot to say. I had a lot to cover. I wanted to preface a lot of things about myself, and I wanted to preface a lot of my experiences so you could see like, wow, maybe this might happen, because there are a lot of factors that do come into play, and people are really going to be deciding on these factors. They are human, and humans decide on these type of things, especially the social interactions that happen within servers. I hope that we just get a streamer. I hope Asmon is like, you know what, I'm going to try it. I'm going to try Wrath Fresh servers. There's nothing to play. Let's play for the first month, and I hope he enjoys himself. I'm really glad that they're bringing the fresh servers out before the X-Pack actually dropped. That way we can all play and have a good time, and I'm hoping something happens, a miracle, but who knows? They might not last. I just really think that these mega servers that are in the game right now are not really that fun. A lot of them are just kind of like a lot of bottering, major inflation issues, and there's a lot of problems with that. We need to have mega servers, but they need to be tame. They don't need to be mega servers, which is what we have now, and it's too much. But alright, y'all, till the next one. Deuces.